Sorry, it's the strangest thing ever.
TGIF, everybody. Yes, I can't wait. That's the only reason I'm always thanking God it's Friday. I have more sleeping time. But first of all, let me give you background. So, first let's talk about Damon Hamlin. He's awake. So they said so far he's awake. He's squeezing hands. He's not showing any signs of neurological damage yet, but he's still in critical condition. So we wait to see. But that's one good news. Then the second one, remember that US coach I was telling you about that?
Yes, the one that kicked his girlfriend when they were teenagers.
Oh, my darling. So it turns out, if you remember, I think we spoke about in the World Cup. So he went to give a speech and he was talking to some young people at a leadership summit. And he said, that there was one particular player that was not giving his all. He did not mention the player's name.
Right.
He just said that particular player, he was not giving his all.
Wasn't George Weah's son, though?
No, it wasn't. That they were planning to, in fact, the player was doing so poorly that they were planning to send the player home. Then one of their team coaching staff said, let them talk to the player one more time, and then they'll do that. And then they spoke with the player, and then the player apologized to the team, and that eventually the player, started putting in the work.
Right.
Turns out that apropos journalists, they now went to find out which player apologized to his teammates. So that's how they found out it was. If you watch the US soccer team, Claudio Reyna. They say there was a popular footballer that played for the US, Claudio Reyna, is his son. So he used to be captain of US national team.
Wow.
I remember him very well. Played for, I think he was Fulham. He played in Premier League though.
Okay.
So Claudio Reyna, it turns out that it was Claudio Reyna's son. And so of course the news came out that it was Claudio Reyna's son. And Claudio Reyna and this coach, they used to be close. Their wives are close. So it was the wife that now went to call the head of US men's sport and said that this guy kicked his wife when he was a teenager.
Wow.
In fact, the way she said it was, I just wanted him to extend the same grace that was extended to him when he was a teenager. When he was a teenager, he kicked his wife. And I'm just like, wow. There's a difference between what he did and what your son did.
Right.
So you couldn't have.
That was malicious.
Yes. So she's a real soccer mom. Soccer moms are really terrible. They do it all the time. And you hear all these stories in the US where soccer moms say nasty things about coaches. That's why sometimes coaches behave themselves, because they can say anything about you. Wow. And then it becomes, so she now went to tell him that one, and that one now told the coach. Coach now had to come out and say, look, I did this 30 years ago when I was 18.
Well, I'm sure those families are, obviously that friendship is
that
over.
friendship is completely dead, because of course it was a coach and his wife that signed that thing. So it turns out it was Gio's mother, Giorena's mother, and she didn't put her son in any good light, because everybody just looking at her like,
everyone on the team right now, he's going to be alone in that locker room.
Even for his club, he in Europe, first of all, the guy struggles with a lot of injuries. So for you to even add this mama trauma on top of it, it's a completely different kettle of fish. So yes, she was one that outed, and she now came out to say, I didn't want to blackmail anybody, and I didn't want the him to be fired. I was just saying, everybody just like, yeah, you didn't want him to be fired. So now even other people are just looking at her like, oh, what a terrible person. Yeah. So it's a nasty, it's messy, and nobody's going to come out of this looking clean.
Well, this also says something about the people on the teams though. Why are they giving stories to journalists about things that have happened in there?
So what had happened was even during the World Cup, I know I follow one of my US colleagues who actually came out to say, oh, that why are they not playing Gio? Then she eventually found out from the team that there was an attitude problem. And then so even during the World Cup, people had already written that, there was an in-house team meeting where they spoke to each other about this particular player. So that's what informed the decision. And then the player himself said it on Instagram that he apologized to his teammates.
So no one was really snitching.
Yeah, it was not hard to do one plus
together.
one to get to.
And get an abusive coach.
Because because a lot of US journalists were like, Jorena, why are they not playing him? What's happening? The guy was just not giving it enough. He said that the coach had told him prior to that, because of maybe his injuries and all, that he was not going to feature fully in the team. So he refused to train well. So because he was not training enough, they were not.
Wow. It gets stranger and stranger.
What's an entitled little boy and his family? In fact, you can tell where his entitlement came from.
Exactly.
All right, so let's talk about other people.
All right, so the headlines. Emma Raducanu retires in tears with ankle injury 11 days before Australian Open. Lewandowski ban upheld ahead of Barca trip to Atletico. City win at Chelsea to narrow gap with Arsenal. Benfica condemned disrespectful Fernandes approach. Too early for trophy talk, says Man United boss Ten Hag. Juve and Milan look to close gap as Napoli stumble in Serie A. Lazio racism. Fans chants mean part of stadium to remain closed. To be closed. Kane will break all goal scoring records, says Conte. Well, let us know what you think. 0144899981. That is the telephone number. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981, or tweet at Smooth981. And we are streaming live on YouTube. Hi YouTube, it's Smooth981 on YouTube. So let's get straight into it.
Let's get straight into it.
All right, so Emma Raducanu criticized the slippery courts at the ASB Classic in Auckland after retiring from her second round match with an ankle injury. Now, she says the courts are incredibly slick, so to be honest, it's not a surprise that this happened to someone.
Yeah, I would say this. I didn't play on the court, so I don't know, and I didn't hear other players complain. But Emma Raducanu has come back from so much injuries. First of all, you have to understand she struggled picking a coach, picking a team, and then she was struggling one injury after the other, because that's what your team does for you. They won't tell you what to eat, how to eat, how to, just everything, just to make you feel good. But from the minute she won that Grand Slam, her career has just kind of nosedive. No coaching, no team. So all those questions, and she struggled physically with injury after injury. So only for her to work that hard and say, okay, get back into full fitness and say, okay, I'm ready for 2023. And just a few days before, it's 1 week and 1 day before the Australian Open, where she wants to really put her back into it and compete. Right. She rolls her ankle, and she rolled it on court. And when you see all these injuries, like they roll their ankle, I was like, I roll my ankle and I stand up and walk. What's wrong with you? Yeah, you can't run around in those things. Very painful, right. Something. So I think so. I understand her frustration, and I understand her taking out into out on the court. But sometimes these things happen. Remember that Alexander Zverev nasty injury,
right?
Where he's playing and then he rolls his ankle and then he's out for months, because you could see the way the ankle bent. It was really nasty. And so when we saw the diagnosis and we saw him on crutches, they're like, yeah, so, and he came out from nowhere, healthy boy, playing tennis, competing in one of the biggest tournaments of his life, rolls ankle. So it happens sometimes. So I understand her frustration, but it's something she's going to have to work with and deal with, and hopefully she'll be prepared for Australian Open when it starts.
All right, let's talk about Robert Lewandowski now. The Barca striker, he had this 3-match ban, which was upheld by Spain Sports Courts on Wednesday, and that means he'll miss the visit to Atletico Madrid on Sunday.
All right, so he had a red card just before the World Cup, so he was supposed to mix 1 match, but they said he insulted the referee, so they added 2 more matches to the ban. He said something disrespectful to the referee, so they added 2 more matches to the ban. So that was the 3-match ban. So Barcelona went to protest it in court. And so while one court had, overturned it before, which is why he was able to play against Espanyol, because he was supposed to miss Espanyol's game. But because that court had overturned it, he was able to play against Espanyol. Okay. So this court now came back and upheld it.
So is it a higher court?
It's kind of the same court, but it's this. They just how you appeal to an appeal.
All right.
So the Espanyol La Liga, they appealed, and now they've sent him. So he's going to miss Atletico Madrid game on Sunday, which is actually a bigger match. However, Lewandowski from the World Cup, if you're judging him by what he did against Espanyol, wasn't so fantastic. However, if you're going to play against Atletico Madrid, you need your best foot forward. You need Lewandowski on the pitch.
Right.
So, but does
he have an attitude problem?
No, I don't know what you mean by attitude problem. If he's like me. Okay, I don't want to say that. But I don't think so. I just think
he insulted the referee.
I think no. Look, in the heat of the moment, which I sometimes get upset with this yellow card for dissent, because we tell players to keep they keep themselves together, keep it together. When we are selling their emotions for money, Football is a real emotional sport. So you want to see them cry on the pitch. You want to see them get frustrated. But somehow, when it comes to referee, they should be polite and smile. Who are you? Do they have split personality disorder? So sometimes I'm upset about this thing, but they said it was disrespectful. I can't argue with that, because sometimes in the heat of the moment you just say things. You see players do it to referees all the time. Sometimes they clap for the referee. Sometimes yeah. So I can't say that he has nothing to do problem based on that.
Okay. Let's go to Benfica now. The coach, Roger Schmidt, says the club has no intention of selling Enzo Fernandez for less than his buyout clause amid reported interest from Chelsea. Okay.
Okay, let's take this story because Chelsea is getting bad boosts front and back. I would say this though. I think a lot of people just learned the word disrespectful because everybody just seems to be using it now. They used it with Cristiano Ronaldo. They're using it now with Enzo Fernandez. This is not disrespectful. This is good old capitalism. I have money. I'm going to woo you. Is that simple? So here's what it is though. Benfica bought a player for 10 million. And they decided to slap him with a 120 million release clause. So I would say they saw the future, that maybe they saw the future that Argentina was going to win the World Cup and that Enzo Fernandez was going to perform well. But I could say that they saw the potential of the player. But you see, the potential is very different from reality. How do you slap a 120 million package on a guy that's never really that's not conquered Europe?
Wow,
that's a lot of baby food. And so Chelsea's just like, we need this guy, he's great, but that's a lot of money. So what they're trying to do is that they're talking to Fernando's agent that, look, this is how much you're going to earn. You better move. Of course, when a player sees the amount of money, so Benfica is now upset that Chelsea is using more money to woo the player, but they're not trying to get the clause. So what happens is that destabilizes the player. And the player now decides that he's not going to play. It's the way a player can force his way out of the club. And then Benfica now don't get their full money.
Right.
So now they're coming out to say Chelsea is being disrespectful. I'm sorry, your guy, go and make money. This is money business. It's just capitalism. They don't want to spend that much money. No rich person I know ever wants to spend money. They don't want to spend that much money, but they still want to get the player they want, and they're still going to give you a reasonable amount of it. Benfica will still make profits.
Right. Wow.
But 120 million is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
For an untested player in Europe. What are you talking about? I know he's fantastic. He said, but he has great potential. Yeah, but there are many people with potential that have failed in life. Can we move on? Potential is not reality.
Oh my days. That's
why I don't trade in the stock market, by the way. I don't buy perception.
All right, let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue the conversation, and we'll be speaking about Chelsea. Chelsea. Stay with us.
Nonsense, people.
Wait, 120 million?
Yes.
Wait, how do you get someone for 10M, and how do you see that much potential?
They can do it. So Pedro, like for Pedro in Barcelona, they raised him through the club, but but his own, I think his money is a lot too. So, but for Pedro, he's tested,
What if they decide to frustrate the guy and keep him on the bench and don't sell him?
Yeah, but what happens is that drops his price tag too for them because he's not playing. So it's at the end of the day, a player can force his way to a cheaper price.
Okay.
But Enzo Fernandez really wants to leave.
Oh, well, and when someone wants to leave,
exactly.
That's true.
So he can frustrate the club. That's why the club is now throwing this tantrum because they know that there's a way
to make any difference.
Yes, there's a way that they will do it. So they can frustrate the player, but it will drop the player's price tag.
Oh, and that's not good for them. They need that ROI. This is real business, though.
This is business. Good old capitalism. Don't complain. Just have your own money so that people will not try nonsense with you.
What?
That's it.
So how is this going to end? How do you think
I don't know. But you see, look, what it is that at the end of the day, the player now be the one looking bad. Like he doesn't want to come for training. Yeah. He doesn't want to play matches. He'll now start looking bad. The bad news for the player though is that it can also affect him because we are not playing games. Yeah. But for the club, they will definitely not be able to sell him at the price tag that they want to sell him. They'll not have to cut loose.
This is some serious stuff.
So we'll come back with a few messages and then we'll go straight into the story. 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. All right. Okay.
This is Paul, and you're listening to Smooth Breakfast.
It's the locker room on Smooth 98.1. Zibby and Tega here. We've got some messages coming through on YouTube. We're streaming on there, by the way. This one is from LK Aderuban. He says, okay, we haven't gotten to Chelsea yet, but I like how the messages are coming in pre-Chelsea. Okay. Good morning, Smooth FM. I'm not really a sports person, but anytime Tega Supreme comes on, I am always happy. I love your vibe, your energy, and how you analyze sports news. And he even put a heart there.
Oh, thank
you. All right, so let's get to Chelsea. Now, second half substitute Riyad Mahrez and Manchester City a 1-0 win at Chelsea on Thursday, and that has caused them to move within 5 points of Arsenal, who are the leaders currently in the Premier League. Now, Guardiola said in the second half we were miles better in every department. It's a big result for us.
Well, yes, from the second half, from the start of the second half, they started pressing Chelsea like a gigi break. Press them hard. It was crazy. It was like there was no breathing room. Wave after wave of challenges. But I would say this though, as much as Manchester City dominated possession, they still looked vulnerable. There was never a moment in the match I could say Manchester City are in complete control of this match. At every point in time, when the ball went the other way, you still had one moment of scare that they would concede. So Manchester City are not looking as convincing as they did last season. However, they are 5 points behind Arsenal, and they do have two matches to play against Arsenal. And yes, Arsenal have struggled against Manchester City in the Premier League, and they've struggled against some of the big teams. So that may be their opportunity. However, Manchester City, not just against Arsenal, but against a lot of teams, do not look that convincing, that solid. And so I think that's the only hope that Arsenal fans can have now, to breathe easy. And then if you're the Arsenal team, you have to beat one of your contenders at least to win the championship. So if you say you deserve the Premier League title, beat Man City and close the case. But for Chelsea, the struggle continues. I would say this for Brighton. If I say for Brighton, for Graham Potter, if I'm Graham Potter, let me tell you, all those Arugo people, they will sit on the bench. I will play all those Hall. Yes, because the minute he brought the Hall, the Hutchinson, the Chukwemeka, all the young boys, those were the guys with the hunger. All of a sudden, they're fighting for shirt with Aubameyang. People that used to watch Aubameyang on TV, they're not like Aubameyang, I won that spot. And they came in and they changed the match. Yes, they were not as clinical. Yes, they don't have the experience, but they had the hunger and the urgency. And if I'm Graham Potter, I'll just be like, you know what? I've been playing you people for too long. I'm not seeing results, so I might as well, if that is down needs fear no fault, I might as well throw the academy players here and let them play. Because it's the young guys for Chelsea, apart from Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva is a vampire, so he doesn't count. But it's the young guys for Chelsea that are doing the job. So once in a while, just risk it all. You already know that Aubameyang is going to struggle if the ball is not fed in front of him. You already know that Hakim Ziyech is going to dribble 10 people, get to the 18-yard box and make one flimsy cross. You know that Hakim Ziyech, that Kai Havertz scores once every 2 market days, and you need goals maybe once every 60 minutes. So, I mean, once in a while, just throw in these young boys. They showed more hunger. So for Graham Potter, I don't know how long he's going to last, but at this point in time, I think risk it all, my dear. Risk it all.
All right, LK Adurba on YouTube says Chelsea should come and explain to me why they sacked Tuchel. Said it was a wrong move then, and I'll say it again. Shameful, embarrassing. This club is practically going downhill. Chelsea's injury list include Kante, James Chilwell, Pulisic, Sterling. It's a long list.
People, and Sterling and Pulisic was in yesterday's match, first 22 minutes. Yes. Match never ever start. Sterling has already helped. I said, hey, this one they are finished. No, but I mean, it happens to the best of people.
Okay, Ernest Okenwa, still on YouTube, says Chelsea and Village people are like 5 and 6. Aubameyang moved from Arsenal, Barca, and to the London boys now. We told Aubameyang that the number 9 is cursed, as they'll give Chelsea one assignment, and they failed. We've got some more messages.
Yeah, just take 2 before I go for more stories.
Okay, this one is from Big E. Big E says, can anything good come from Chelsea at this point? Arsenal gave the Blues one assignment. They fumbled. English FA should call Man City the Blues, the real pride of London.
Yeah. Right. Oh, Emeka, this is long. But let me just try to take it. So Emeka from Amuwa says, clubs like Chelsea are spoiling market for other clubs, spending 120 million for Enzo, United spending 85 million on Anthony, City spending 100 million on Grealish. That was just daylight robbery. Now because of this, Shakhtar slamming 88 million on Modric when they're not actually worth it. As regards their game yesterday, the only shining light I saw was Kani Chukwemeka. Yes, he's a baller. Lastly, can we teach these English commentators how to pronounce his name? Because when they call his name, you think they are saying, yes, Shakamaka, yes, instead of Chukwemeka. They do it all the time. Even when they say, I want to have a class. But then, some of these athletes, when you ask them their names, they don't
They
even know how
pronounce
to
it the
pronounce
wrong
it.
way,
So
yeah.
you might as well just forgive the commentators, all right? Let's see from Zicolo. Okay, so Zicolo says, my highlight of the match between Chelsea and Man City last night was that Aubameyang remains useless. This must be an Arsenal fan. Again, I ask, who goes first between Lampard and Potter?
All right, let's talk. Juve and Milan look to close gap as Napoli stumble in Syria. But before that, let's go to Man United boss Ten Hag saying it's too early for trophy talk. Now, Manchester United manager said his team are in a good position, but it was still too early for them to be thinking about silverware, and that's coming ahead of an FA Cup tie against Everton. And he says, "Where are we are where we want to be, but still go from game to game. We play in many competitions, focus from game to game, and don't think too far ahead. We have many elements in our game and that we have to improve."
Yeah, so I like the approach he's taking, one day at a time, looking safe for them. I think they're just 9 points behind Arsenal, so they're still inside this title talk that we are ranting about. Manchester City just being 5 points behind Arsenal, so they're still in the title talk. And then they play Everton today, a struggling Everton side, I must mention, who Frank Lampard actually told Everton fans. I mean, an Everton fan is just coming out from losing 4-1 against Brighton, and you're telling them we are going to still suffer a while. I'm just like, what more suffering can this be? You know, it's like it's like coming out of Third Mainland Bridge traffic and somebody tells you how to roll. There's still traffic at Bagada. You're like, okay, you know what? I should have just slept on the island. But that's what he's telling them.
Right.
And they face a Manchester United side that's playing with a completely different level of confidence now. You know, everybody's trying to impress, everybody's trying to do their best, everybody's trying to honor the jersey. They already understand that, you know what, if Eric Ten Hag could do this thing to Cristiano Ronaldo, who are we? Cristiano has won five UEFA Champions League. We've not won half. He will not bench us. He will trade us via text message. So every player is sitting up. There's a different level of confidence, a different vibe. You know, you can feel the way that they are loving their football of Manchester United. It's a completely different team from what it was a few months ago. So there's confidence in the squad. There's results that's also following that confidence. The team is playing very well. So of course, people will start throwing in title thoughts. But the guy is just like, you know what? Let me just survive FA Cup with Everton today, because cup competitions are different. You know, one team can be losing massively in the Premier League cup competition, they'll just come and win one game and spoil your market. So he's like, we take it one game at a time, and I like the way he's doing that.
All right, don't forget we're streaming on YouTube at Smooth981 on YouTube. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 Now, Juventus may be in turmoil off the pitch, but they are slowly clawing their way back into the Serie A title race, and this has opened after the leaders, Napoli, suffered a first defeat of the season this week.
And I was so happy. If you saw the way I was following Inter Milan, don't pass it there. Now hold the ball. Oh, you lie down. Oh yeah, you roll. You know, I just, every time wasting tactics, I was ready for them, because Napoli looked like they were running away with the Italian Serie A at some point. I was like, this is supposed to be my most competitive league. What is happening? And of course, because of what Napoli owner said about African players. So I'm sorry, Victor Osimhen. I really supported you. I really support you. But I wanted just one loss for humility. And it came against an Inter Milan side that were ready to prove a point, you know, that they're back to compete. You know, World Cup winner Lautaro Martinez, he didn't start the match, but he came on the match. He said he had a bad World Cup, even if he did win the World Cup, and we also how bad his World Cup was. But he said he was ready to carry that World Cup win into Inter Milan and try to push for them to be able to defend their title, because their title defense have been horrible. And then, sorry, the title defense from last season was horrible. AC Milan won it, so they're trying to challenge AC Milan, and they're failing horribly. So he was like, we're ready to fight. Lukaku also had a bad World Cup. He was like, how to forget the bad World Cup? How to forget Chelsea? I just want to focus on Inter Milan and get them to win. So there's a lot of players with a lot of reasons for Inter Milan to win, and they came back with that urgency and that same vibrancy, and they pressed Napoli, so they were able to win that. But that just narrows the gap, because AC Milan is now just 5 points behind Napoli. And on that note, anything can happen. But that gap could still widen this weekend because AC Milan travel to Roma travel to AC Milan to play against AC Milan. Now Roma could be beaten because they have the most horrible defense I've seen in Europe. I don't know in any top 5 leagues.
That's like
it's horrible.
title.
I don't understand how Roma would have a Jose Mourinho and have that kind of defense. I don't know. Jose Mourinho is lacking. But Roma can give you something to think about. So AC Milan have a tough task ahead. Juventus, they're happy. They've won 7 games in a row. They're looking for their 8th win. So they're in good form. So everybody's now chasing Napoli, like thief. So hopefully Napoli will be able to run. They face Sampdoria this weekend. Let's see if they'll be able to bounce back. But yes, that loss was really good for the Serie A.
Right, Elke on YouTube says Tega symbolism is just out of this world. How can she say a coach will trade a player via text message? I've literally laughed and fallen off my seat. Okay, so let's talk about racism in football. Now, last year I've been ordered to close part of their stadium for the next match, and this comes after their fans had directed racist abuse at 2 players from Lecce. Is that pronounced?
Lecce. I think what is happening with the Italian Serie, when I see racism in Italian Serie, I'm just like, I'm not surprised. But I'm actually surprised that they're closing down the stadium. Like the Italian Serie have reacted. We thank God for little messes because it's almost as if they don't see racism.
Well, they can't see racism, except they're on the receiving end.
What are you saying? What did we do? It's nothing. Just chin it up. But I was happy. I think it was really sad because Umtiti, after the match, they had won, but Umtiti was crying. He was one of the players that was racially abused. The other guy was just sad and just walking off the pitch. But it really went round, because again, sometimes these things are vary from, I've now learned that there's a difference between Black and African. Trust me, it's 2 different things.
What?
If you're Black European, you're different. You're still a level higher than African.
Wow.
They say reaction. Look, there's classism in this racism. Forget it. Like, we can continue this discussion of it, but it happens. And so I think part of the reason this thing really went viral was, Umtiti is French. They came out in support. Barcelona came out in support. The FIFA president came out in support of these players. I was just like,
wow.
That's
a lot of support.
You understand? They say, which is why I say there's classism inside this racism. Because for African players,
like you're Black, but you're not African Black.
Exactly.
You're European, so you're maybe acceptable.
So it's different. But I like the fact that at least they've come out to say we're going to ban half the stadium. I want to see more stringent stuff. That look, if there's racism from the crowd, and they deduct points, I can assure you, because fans love their team to win more than anything. I can assure you that fans will come to say, no, they want to say one racist thing, and they remember.
Oh, that's true.
Points deduction. They'll be quiet.
But can we expect that there won't be racism in football when there's racism in every other part
Yes,
of
there's
life?
racism in every part of. I'm just saying, in football, it's a little easier to contain. Like I said, if you come to the stadium and you know that if there's racist chants from your team, there'll be points deduction. I guarantee you. Because you may not be able to prove racism in the supermarket. But you can prove the one that was on the pitch. You can hear their chants. The minute we hear those chants, we said.
Okay.
Let's just read the messages.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Tayo says, somebody look into that Kepa goal. It was suspect. Chelsea fans need to support their female team and rest in the name of the Lord.
I'm telling you, just support your female team. Samantha Care will never disappoint you.
Okay, so apparently the female team is at the top of the league. And this one's from Mayowa Oshadari,
who says Chelsea are spoiling the transfer market and going from the pride of London to the shame of London. 10 points from relegation and top 4. God, I beg you. And then Chimabi Victor says, Napoli knows how to start well, but Jungle matured. The boys will be separated from the men, which I know this season won't be an exception. The Serie A is between Juventus, Inter Milan, and AC Milan. Watch and see how this unfolds at the end of the season. I don't agree with that, but let's wait and see. And then the final message is Big E from Ketu. He says, so Man U are now on a winning streak since their GOAT, and Ronaldo, was in Man U. Since their GOAT left. Ronaldo was in Man U supporting Arsenal. They play. This just says that if you want to succeed in life, do away with your ex and move on. Biggie, who broke your heart? It's too early in the year.
It's the best time to start afresh. New relationship, new year. And that's it for the locker room. Thank you so much, Tega.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for staying tuned. Let's do this again on Monday.
That's it for the locker room. Do stay with us. There's more to come on Smooth Breakfast.
Say bye-bye. I want to gossip about colorism and racism class. Let me bye-bye, so that you won't quote me.